Alex, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Great.
So, can you explain to me what the concept of SoundQuest is?
So the concept of SoundQuest, I like to use the word posture, is we are trying to educate, communicate, and share the magnificence, beauty, and just unique speciality of what classical music is in all of its forms. Now that we live in a society where we're so used to music being in every space, whether we walk into an elevator, a lobby, a grocery store, we're always hearing sound. We're bombarded with sound. But what's interesting about classical music is that it existed in a time, most of it, that to experience it, you either had to hear it live or you had to know how to play it. And it existed in a time where life's pace was incredibly slower than it is now. We move at a very rapid pace. We have so many distractions, but back in that time, for the most part, the classical period or the romantic period, let's just say, things were moving at a much slower pace. So people took their time to craft something. You could not craft something in an afternoon. It took time. Yes, there were geniuses like Mozart things just came really natural and he would do things in rapid speed even in that time. But what's interesting about the pacing of that time and then the art that was birthed from it or the music that was birthed from it is it shows of an excellent caliber, and so often not because it's not taught in schools, modern schools now, and in Europe it is, but not in the States. We want to educate people on how wonderful it is to dive into this music. This music can invoke images. It's got messages. Sometimes it's programmatic. It's got programs associated with it, but there's just a need to convey the beauty and history and rich offering of this music to young and old generations. And that's our posture with SoundQuest.
So, explain to me what some of the difficulties have been in putting these episodes together and how have you overcome those difficulties?
Yeah, so whenever you're talking about a subject, oftentimes you can maybe be discouraged because you're saying, okay, so the subject matter is educational, it's historic. Are people really going to be interested? So I guess the approach is how can we make it approachable, digestible, if you will? And I've often used the metaphor of we want to approach the discussion like we were having a dinner party and we would talk about it in terms where it can still be understood and approached and there could be questions asked even if you weren't educated or if you did have some knowledge about classical music, but intriguing, informative, and interesting. So that's kind of the idea. So the challenge is to really, how do you structure the conversation where it's not overly academic, overly nerdy, but it has some of those elements and yet still approachable, still obtainable. That's the most challenging part, at least from my perspective.
Sure. And what would you say for you personally have been some of the highlights?
You know, I love talking to the various people that contribute to the art form. So whether you're talking to a composer, a performer, Matthew Troy being a musical conductor, they have a very unique perspective because they either they create this music organically and originally, or they recreate this music. And they have a tremendous responsibility of being true to what was written, what's on the page, yet also bringing it to life. When I watch Matthew conduct live, I'm amazed because I know how much work goes in and how much preparation goes into that and how, but yet it's still in the moment. Things can happen that are unexpected and you never know what's going to happen. And so what's cool about watching it recreated or discussing this recreation, it's always interesting and you never know what you're going to expect. So I love dialoguing with the people. I love interviewing the people, and that's really been the most kind of memorable and exciting portion of the podcast.
Well, I've enjoyed listening to your episodes, and I'm sure a lot of people from not just around Hickory, but around the country and even around the world have enjoyed these episodes. And so thank you for putting these together and sharing this beautiful art form with the rest of us folks who might not otherwise hear it.
Sure, and that's the goal. If we can make lovers of this art form, that's what our ultimate goal is. And we have people outside of North Carolina, we have across the country, but we have people in Jamaica, we have people in Germany, we have people in Europe. I think there's one in Australia I saw that was listening to it. So it is getting out, but as you know, it's a long-term marathon. It's not a sprint, especially with this art form. We're not talking politics. We're not talking, how-tos. We're talking old music or music that just demands a certain level of attention. It's not bubblegum. It's a 3 or 4 course dinner. And we're going to continue on as people are listening, but our message is, journey with us, because we're on a journey to discover this music, and there's always something to discover. It's a very rich history, and we just hope we make more lovers of this music.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.